936 ABC Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania. It's 24 to 9. I'm Helen Shield. If your dog has a tendency to go on unmanned adventures and you've been reunited only because of a little wafer-sized piece of silicon under Fido's skin, then you know very well how powerful a microchip can be. Would you, though, have one inserted under your own skin? Shane Dalgleish from Hobart Hackerspace has. Arguably, he is the first person in Tasmania to do it. Hello, Shane.
G'day, how are you?
I'm well. I guess the obvious question is why?
Well, I keep asking myself that too, because it's actually a really silly thing to do. It's a 12 millimetre long, 2 millimetre round cylindrical object that's in my hand now. And you've got to put it in a similar category as like piercings or tattoos or anything. It's just something that someone might want to do.
Except what sort of technology can that handle?
Well, I'm using it for access control, so I can open the doors and disarm the security system at the Hobart Hackerspace. I'll be fitting a reader to my motorcycle next, and probably to my front door at home.
So, in the same way, people who work in a corporate setting might wear a tag around the neck, which they swipe over a sensor and access. Your hand will be doing that.
Yeah. It's exactly the same technology.
Where do you get the gear to then be able to sync up with your hand?
The gear, the readers are almost identical to the ones, for your access control at work. There are a number of different types of tags. The ones that are in animals are slightly different from the one that I've got in my hand. And very soon on the market there'll be one that's compatible with your near field on your mobile phone as well. Oh. So I'm looking forward to putting that one in my other hand.
And do you have a partner or parent or someone who wants to put GPS tracking on you?
I wish they could, but that would be fun.
Well, you've obviously got nothing to hide. That's good. And so what will you do with it? What is the very next plan for your chip?
I'm just playing with it. Really, access controlling. I just don't like losing my keys, and this is a way that I don't have to carry keys around with me. But really, there are a lot of easier ways of achieving the same outcome.
Wearing a little tag around your neck, for example.
Yeah, but if you don't want to carry anything, you can do fingerprint scanning, hand, size scanning, facial recognition, retinal scanning. All of the things that you've seen on the movies really does exist. The technology does exist. And for small numbers of people like the 30, 40 members of the Hackerspace, that wouldn't be a problem to implement. But this is different. This is fun. I wanted to do it, so I acquired a suitably compatible tag and implanted it.
And who did the implanting?
A friend of mine who's an animal biologist.
A vet, basically.
Yeah.
And how did you talk them into it?
It took a little bit of convincing, but once I signed my life away and pleaded and begged, they went along with it and put me through the pain of shoving a rather large needle in my hand.
How painful was the whole process?
Putting it in, it tickled. It hurt a lot. But once it was in there, it's fine. It doesn't cause me any discomfort whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is Shane Dalgleish from Hobart Hackerspace. He is first person in Tasmania. Can we safely say that?
I imagine there's probably some crazy vet somewhere who might have implanted an animal one, but definitely the first one who's using it for access control that we know of.
First person in Tasmania to insert a chip into his own hand for access control. With you on 936 ABC Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania. It's 20 to 9. Now, how did you come across the technology for this?
Well, I knew what type of chip our security system needed, and so I contacted a guy overseas, a male grass staff, and he's in Washington State, and he managed to source one that was compatible, and sent it over to me, all sterilised, ready to go.
And how many other people have you come across in your time who have done a similar insertion?
No one.
None anywhere?
No. A male has one in his hand, or one in each of his hands, but I haven't met anyone else who has.
Is he doing anything particularly tricky with his?
He's got the newer one because he's actually developed the one that's compatible with the mobile phone. So his passing on his contact details and all sorts of fun things just by getting people to brush their phone up against his hand.
Who was the first person you told that you were thinking about doing it?
Probably the biologist friend who I got to insert it.
And do you remember the friend's reaction?
I think most people I've spoken to about this think I'm completely crazy or stupid or both, and they're probably right. But yeah, that's the general reaction I get.
There was a big movement maybe 20 years ago about end times and the mark of the beast.
That was kind of a motivating factor. I wanted my own little mark of the beast.
You're trying to usher in Armageddon.
Yeah, I may or may not be the Antichrist. I'm not sure yet.
Right. While I have got you here, and with your technical expertise, Shane, can I check in on a couple of tech issues? Heartbleed was a computer bug making news last week about record levels of data exposure and online vulnerability for people. What's the fix on that like? How's progress?
Oh, the fix is actually really easy. Your sysadmins just have to upgrade the OpenSSL package. It'll only take them a few minutes, create new certificates and all of that sort of jazz. It's really simple. But this is a big deal because we have a security vulnerability that affected some major sites. We have Google who were impacted by it. We have Wikipedia who were impacted by it. And no one really knows how much information was leaked through these weaknesses. So it is a really big deal, and so everyone does really need to get on, change their passwords. All the major sites have been fixed up. The thing you've got to be worried about now is the minor sites, the sites that are run by, well, who knows? You could be a teenage boy down the road who runs that web forum or that website that you log into.
Yeah.
And so particularly if you're using the same password on that as you do for other websites, have a good hard think about that and make sure that you do sort of protect yourself as best you can.
And now that a few days have passed, is it worth changing them again, just in case they hadn't updated before your last change?
Never hurts. It never hurts to change your password, as long as you can remember them.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Having a different one for everything, just enough of a slight difference. I just sort of rotate between a list. And I know, okay, if that one doesn't work, it's probably this one. If it's not that one, it'll be this one. And hopefully that gets me through. And Windows finishing up. How much of an end of an era is that? That's
really interesting. It's been going for a very long time. And a lot of people are quite disappointed because a lot of large organisations in particular, XP's been rock solid stable for them for an enormous number of years. And so moving off that is sometimes quite costly for organisations. I myself, know of a lot of software that just won't run on the newer versions particularly well, mainly because it used what would now be considered security exploits in order to operate, but. There are computer programmers who are having to rewrite software to run on the new systems. It's interesting.
Well, before I do let you go, Shane Dalgleish, if somebody has heard this and is suddenly desperately keen to get a microchip to stick in their own hand or whatever body part of their choosing, how would they go about that?
Get online. You can search around. There are places that sell already sterilised kits. There's a website called Dangerous Things, I believe. Great name.
What could go wrong?
If you're silly enough to do it, then you're equally as silly as me.
Shane Dalgleish from Hobart Hackerspace with you on ABC Local Radio Tasmania. It's 8:45. I'm Helen Shield.